The world today is celebrating Africa through music.
Yes, Afrobeat, I know.
You see, because you have expressed ourselves so strongly and our culture through music. And that is one of the avenues that I've seen young Africans, the Gen Zs that you're talking about, express themselves through. There's a concept called African socialism.
Yes.
We love one another, we are neighbors, we take care of one another. And if that will even be adopted in our politics, where an elected member thinks that these are my people and we care for one another, we are planning with one another for the development of each other, we won't even have corruption.
Hello and welcome to yet another episode of Noble, and today in the show I have my good friend the Don. So he is so many things. He's in the civic space, he's in the governance, politics, but also he's an author of this book that we will be talking about much later. But first of all, let me introduce Don to tell us a little bit about himself. So Don, welcome to Noble Africa Show. This is where we do the things and we talk about so many other things, but we would like to know, who is Don?
My name is Collins. Ouma Don Collins, the whole of it. And it must be in that order. You must start with Ouma.
Ouma.
Yeah. If you don't start with Ouma, that's not me.
I know why, but we're gonna get there. So who is Ouma Don Collins?
Ouma Don Collins is a social entrepreneur, a Pan-Africanist and a poet.
All right.
Yes.
That's what describes you.
That's what describes me.
Okay.
Then every other thing comes under that description. But I like to describe myself as such. Yeah.
So why Pan-African? I remember the first time we met, that was the first conversation we had. It was a long conversation. The Afrocentrism being Pan-African. So why are you so much interested in, the Pan-African movement?
Because I believe Africa is a great continent. And that greatness is supposed to be impacted across the globe. They say every great person is just an actor of their own ideals. And it's the same, not just to an individual, it's the same to a country, it's the same to a continent. And now it's the same to our globe if we look at it. Like we having different continents and people within those continents. So we understand it from a localized context and a globalized context as such. So if you are to be a great people, a great continent of Africa, then we must be great, we must be actors of our own ideas. But what are our ideas if we don't understand our ideas? It means then we must go back to our Africanity. What is it that makes us unique? And what value then can we provide to this world within our lifetime? The Chinese are providing what is theirs, their culture, to the world. Japanese are doing that. And all other continents are doing that. So if we don't identify with, appreciate, live our Africanness with its beauty and its splendor and its richness, then me who is every day thinking and working towards development of our continent will never achieve that. So everything else boils down to appreciation, recognition, embracing and celebrating our Africanness and using that as a tool for prosperity.
Awesome. I hold this opinion that the the breed of Africans, especially in the African continent, that are still embracing what is African are very few. And it starts by naming. How have we named our children? It goes to the language we are using, to how we are dressing. And Kenya, to be very specific, I don't think we have celebrated the Africanness in us enough. So what's the future? Because the Gen Zs are coming in, people who are literally, I don't see they have a digital culture that is a bit global, and they don't embrace even being members of this country enough, you know. So what's the future of the Afrocentric kind of thought? Individuals like you, what are you guys doing? What should we do in our own spaces?
Now, I'll agree with you, yet disagree with you in that analogy. In this sense,
Okay.
mention one song that if played right now, you'll dance.
One song?
If it just plays right now on the system, you'll be up on your feet.
Samangwana's Banaba Cameroon.
Banaba Cameroon.
Yes.
You see? This means you are an old soul. You like Zilizo Pendo and all that.
Yes.
If I ask that same question to a younger person, they tell you, baby, calm down, calm down.
Yeah.
Or they will mention some very crazy Amapiano.
Yeah.
Yeah? The world today is celebrating Africa through music.
Yes. Afrobeat. I know.
You see? Because because you have expressed ourselves so strongly and our culture through music. And that is one of the avenues that I've seen young Africans, the Gen Zs that you're talking about, express themselves through. Now, we are not void of a history that has broken Africanity in the past. You know, the history of colonialism and all those things. We are alive to those. And in a way, they scattered what we believed as ours, what we held dear as our own. But then we have realized that without our culture, without thinking the way we are used to thinking as Africans, then, you know, the way we think, then there's no way then we are going to develop. You know, AU's Agenda 2063 will just be another dream, you see? So I've seen people coming back to the African way of doing things, the unique way of doing things. So we appreciate that disruption that was there.
Can you mention a few of these things that we are doing the African way?
The African way. I'll start with music, the way I've just mentioned. We used to do our music, modernity came, the history that I've mentioned, and some things looked cool because they were borrowed and they were new. But we're now going back to a way of doing music. And the world is now adopting the African way of doing music, the way we arrange our beats, the way we do our notes. I like this artist, Jaja. Jaja is from Congo.
Yes.
His song Ndule. In Ndule he sings that in Africa we don't go to school to learn music. No, we don't. When we walk, we just sing. When we wake up, we sing and dance. It's something innate in us.
Yes, it's very innate.
Right? In other parts of the world, people study music up to PhD to be able to do music the way we do it here. You see?
I see.
And that is just one of the ways. There comes to dressing. There's some dressing that when we do, we just, oh, that is African. So the question is then, how do we re-embrace our uniqueness and have it as part of our everyday way of life? Because there's a lot that we as a continent can contribute to the development of this world. We just need to go back to retrace our steps to who we are. Because then if we act from a place of knowing ourselves, then even the challenges that we have today, Andre, we can handle them in a better way than if we did handle them using borrowed concepts and borrowed school of thoughts.
So you believe strongly that the Gen Zs, for example, that I'm talking about, they have done better in terms of embracing the Africanness?
No. The better language will be like that they are loud enough while doing it. You see? They are loud enough while doing it. When they embrace it, and they are unapologetic about it. But I won't speak about Gen Zs alone. I'll speak about
even us. I mean,
them and
the
us.
Millennials.
You see, because even them, they are borrowing from things that, or from what has the previous generation has started in retracing and re-owning and reperpetuating. the Africanity that we're talking about. You see, so we talk about the dressing, the music. Nowadays, diseases are everywhere. What are doctors telling us? Go back to what you used to eat traditionally. Now we're asking ourselves, what are those?
Let us stop eating broilers. Let's go back to the kuku kienyeji. Let us go to nduma.
Yes. Could we minimize MSG? Could we go? So science is taking us back to our roots. Every evidence is bringing us back to who we are, right? Because then, even if you ask us or any person, you know, in the urban setups, they'll tell you these are new diseases. That came by which means? So it means that if we maintained our culture, how we used to do our food, how we used to engage one another, how we used to relate, and how we used to work, how we used to think. Because by and large, Africans, there's a concept called African socialism. We love one another, we are neighbors, we take care of one another. And if that will even be adopted in our politics, where an elected member thinks that these are my people and we care for one another, we are planning with one another for the development of each other, we won't even have corruption. Where will it stem from? If I know for sure I'm doing this for my people, for the development of our people, for our collective good, like we used to think in our traditional African ways. There's no corruption. So that's the message, Andre. If we went back to
our traditional
ways, there are a lot of things that we will be grappling with today.
I hosted a friend of mine here last year. He's a poet. He's a very, he's a true Pan-African. He almost made me change my name from Andre Otieno to Otieno Andre. Like the way you say, if you don't start with Ouma, then you're not referring to me. But I still did self-evaluation. And as much as I would really want to, I've named a son very Luo kind of names, which do not have anything European. And we don't do that as much the way I've met so many Nigerians, and I hardly hear these English names or European names with them. They are very unique West African names. And I can name like 10 of them who actually have never known their European names, and they don't have it. He said something, my friend Kauma, actually, it's called Diambo Kauma. Kauma told me that the custodians of the African culture is the me and you in the current world, using the digital space and communicating that which is African. From the language, from the way we dress, from the music we listen to,
the way we relate to people.
Yes, from the way we go to Gor Mahia matches or AFC, the Mashimeji derbies, and portray the Africanness in it. You know, the World Cup of 2010 really was beautiful. You know?
It was.
And it's the culture in Africa. I mean, you've seen how Cameroonians show up for the AFCON and everything. AFCON is a very colorful kind of, tournament. Now, you and I are the custodians currently, because if a young American wants to know that which is African, our contribution would largely inform him of what is African.
True.
But we have a larger generation who do not even love speaking in their mother tongue. I've met them.
True.
I have a cousin who is Luo, but cannot speak in the Luo because he's been raised here, and sometimes he sounds very embarrassed by mere fact that I can talk to him in the Luo,
and
he wonders because because there's a way he wants to identify himself. But this has also gone a long way, how our politics has been done, that if you tell me you are karaoke, I already know how did you vote in the previous election and what is your political leaning. And if you say otherwise, probably you are simply acting or being politically correct to fit into the conversation. For example, if my Uber guy start telling me how they hate the current regime, I feel he's just acting because he's probably learned that I come from the other culture and he wants us to be in agreement. So that at this time we are having this conversation.
We can be in harmony.
Yes, as at now, you know. Being politically right. So what are we doing with the people who have access to the social media spaces how are we communicating the Africanness? Or how best can we do these things?
This is my thought, and especially, let me start from the political side. Right?
Yeah.
The narratives that have been pushed to divide people.
Yeah.
Since time immemorial, the simple tactic of divide and rule has been used, has been applied, used, succeeded, and has been propagated and perpetuated for years. And our politicians are using it today.
Yes.
Where if I want to, get this person not to, come together with this for common agenda because it won't fit in my agenda, how can I make them apart?
Yes.
Divide them, then rule them.
Yeah.
So that they don't have space to interact and come together and say, oh, okay, whatever was being said here is just bullshit. There's nothing really in true sense, in its true meaning that separates us or should separate us.
Yeah.
And I think the solution there is to stubbornly, go against such narratives and form new ones. Because we're talking about making a change now. Stubbornly embrace what is our own, and so proudly that if somebody does not want to identify as such, then they don't belong. Then we alienate them. Then those people who want to divide us so they can rule us, they're no longer part of our society. Tell us who they rule. So can we stubbornly embrace our cultures, stubbornly, celebrate them, proudly and stubbornly own them, so that if anyone should tell me otherwise, my friend.
But these things go a long way. These things go a long way.
But again, in the modernity that came, some people thought that relinquishing your culture is cool. It's not, and they want to identify. Sometimes modernity was like leaving what is yours and taking the Western culture.
How you
if you ask them what
what
is the Western culture? You see? Because Western culture is also just an accumulation of many cultures that have come together. Right? Then those ones were left. Then modernity came in, and some things were presented as a better way of doing things. But most of those guys, even the Western one, have not left their culture. If you go to Britain today,
for example, like when they do the royal wedding, you've seen how...
Take it even to the family level.
Yes.
You want to take a white girl out, you'll go to her house and ask permission from her father.
And that's their culture.
Yes. What is modernity in Nairobi doing? We elope with girls. So it's not Western culture, really.
Right.
Yeah, it's
mischief.
It might be some group of people who decided, we don't want to belong. Let's just have our own way of doing things, which is not the Western culture. It's just the modernity.
Is it American culture?
Not American.
For real?
America has its own natives and people who used to be there, and they have their own culture, most of whom are trying very much to preserve their cultures. Look at the Western Indians, for instance. There are some places where you don't do some certain nonsense that we do in town. Their cultures are preserved.
Including the black community?
The black community is disenfranchised in a way that, many cultures were mixed. The trade, everything slave trade that went on there and disrupted most of the cultures. So they're just taking up new cultures, trying to retrace, but they have a disadvantage because those are 400 years. How do you maintain a culture where you don't practice it every day and the systems are against you?
And in the same breath, what about us? I mean, how many years? Kenya, for example, I don't like using this term that we are 60-something years old, as if we never existed.
We existed
before. We existed before that, but now from independence. And now, there's a lot of different cultures coming in, a new generation, especially the urbanites like us. There's a whole different culture coming up where people don't identify probably by their traditions. If you, for example, try to embrace your tradition, you look archaic or backward or something. So what about us?
And I think that notion lies just within a small group of people.
For real?
Within even the urban setup, yes.
I think it's a large group of people.
It's a small group of people. Everybody, it's the nature of humans to belong as social creatures.
Yeah.
Right? And without our culture, without a culture,
Yeah.
and that in the books is written, one of the ways of colonizing Africa, we destroy their culture, then we can penetrate them. If we maintain our culture, then nothing like such can really happen.
Okay.
It's unacceptable, and people will fight nail and tooth against it. But the first entry of colonialism in Africa was through breaking the African culture. You see?
And it's been
So
hard for us
if
to maintain
we,
up to that.
yes.
Yeah.
So if you want to grow this continent, then we have to go back to our culture, relearn it, for those who have not had the privilege to learn it. But let me ask you, most artists
Yeah.
that are well known in Kenya today,
Yeah.
do they sing English songs or do they sing vernacular songs?
They sing Swahili songs.
Ha! You'll be
Shame.
shocked. You'll be shocked. This is a very small population.
Okay.
Yeah, what in
give
town.
me one artist that you
Let me
think
give
is-
you one artist.
Yeah.
Ken Maria.
Is ask a larger population. Okay, let's go
Let
out
me-
there.
let
Let's
me-
ask
let me
people
say
who know Ken Maria.
Ken Maria is performing in Nairobi.
Yeah.
Tell me if that stadium won't fill up. And who will be there? There'll be the Kambas in town. And those who are Kambas and they want to belong, they'll go there.
Do Canvas go to concerts?
Everybody goes there on concerts. There's this, if we go to the Kikuyu culture,
Yeah.
when Samido performs the city is in a standstill. Kikuyus are there. They're enjoying the music and they're enjoying, it's something that is theirs and they own it. And we who are not Kikuyus just want to go there and see, okay, how do these guys do their stuff?
Okay.
And we enjoy Mugidi the whole night.
You've ever been to?
I've been there. When Musa Juma sang Hera Mudo Bana, the town went to a stand, Luos and the Mercedes,
You had to bring that up. Mercedes.
Yeah, they usually mention Luos.
Yeah, they
So
say,
see-
there's this whole thing when you want
So-
to see a Mugidi night and
Yeah.
there are Mogi nights, there's a whole big difference. The pro boxers and the, but we're not
It's
getting
part
there.
of the different cultures
Sorry.
as well and what people hold dear.
Yeah.
So if you look at all those, even here in Nairobi, in fact, those people make more money in Nairobi than they do in their local setups. So there's a smaller population
Yeah.
of these people who don't want to belong, don't want to identify, and it's fine. It's
So you
part
say
of a
if
culture.
Major pulls a show,
But
it
it's-
won't be as big as Prince Indas, right?
Nah. A Luo night will bring all Luos in town.
Yeah.
A Mugide night will do the same. Mulembe night the same.
And if you bring Davido from,
If you bring Davido, then the people who know Davido and
the few, the elites,
Yeah.
the elites who are like,
you
urbanites.
see? Yeah.
Wow.
You see?
I am
So
agreeing
people
because
identify
I've
and love that.
watched, I've never been to a Prince in a concert, but I've seen it on YouTube. I've seen how massive it is.
It is.
Here in Nairobi, when he goes like to Homa Bay or wherever, whichever part of this country.
Yeah.
And that's big.
Yeah.
Now, Ouma,
Yeah.
you said if I don't start with Ouma, then I'm referring somebody else.
Yeah.
Now, Ouma,
Yeah.
I've always felt that our history is designed by the Europeans, like the colonizers. Let me just say the colonizers.
I'll say recorded.
Recorded, yes. Yeah, that's it. Recorded by the colonizers.
Yeah.
And I boldly said this back in the days in campus that there are no group of people who are half-baked as the students of history.
Yeah.
And I loved literature because it gave me the urge to read for my own the African literature, the African history, and I would understand it even way better. Because the historians want to talk about Napoleon, they want to talk about the Machiavellis, and those are the concepts that they run around with, speaking big vocabularies around the Western history or history as recorded through the lenses of the Westerns.
Yeah.
Literature in its own way has a way of digging deeper into that which was African.
Yeah.
So, where is our place in writing our own history, recording our own history? Because when I was reading Tom Boyer's book, Freedom and After, I realized how I didn't know so much about our own history. I know history of America largely because it's available, it's easily available, it's documented. The history of Tomboya as told by other people was so different from the very book that Tomboya himself penned that now was quite different.
And Tomboya advocated strongly for African socialism as a generalized term for the culture of the African people. But before I even delve into that, there is every time, or most of the time, or sometimes, when you mention Pan-Africanism, people's mind go to the extreme. Of leaving alone out everything else that is not African and embracing everything else that is only African. And that's a caution, because if we did everything in the extreme way to be detrimental, why are we advocating for Pan-Africanism? Because we want Africa to develop and Africa to contribute in immense ways to the growth of the globe. Because it's still a process that we are all of us as a globe are in. Our development is something continuous. How do we contribute meaningfully to that? Pan-Africanism and does that. But sometimes when you mention Pan-Africanism, we just think of the extreme side. The same way sometimes when you mention Christianity, Christianity is a good thing.
Are you a Christian?
If it goes in the extreme way, I am a Christian myself. Right? I was born and raised in a Christian family. But there are Christians who are extremists. Then it becomes detrimental. Islam is a good religion. But there are those Muslims who are extremists. Then it becomes detrimental. There are the Buddhas or the Buddhists or Indians, for instance. Those who go extreme then become detrimental. So why, to what end do we want to propagate some certain ideas? Is it for the good or for the bad? And that balance must be struck. And even in Pan-Africanism. Because then sometimes when we speak about Pan-Africanism, some people go to the extreme, to the extent that why would we then relate with these particular races and why would we work with? No, we must work with them. You see? But in our culture, within the confines of what is ideal for us, what is good to us, and within, the thought structures of, the Pan-African, concept and culture, in that way, then we are contributing what is unique about us to the table, as the Chinese bring their culture and the way they do their construction. Everything is Chinese. I've seen a lot of Chinese tradition, even in our expressway. It's existing there. When the Japanese do their construction, now if Africans do their construction, can we identify that is an African construction? And can we export that as a good thing? You see, so that becomes a challenge, and we must define that. And we must be, very, 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 how do you put it?
Is it intentional?
Intentional about that. That's the word I'm looking for. Intentional about it. You see. So when you talked about, there's something you mentioned, it's escaping my mind. I said I'll come to it after giving this.
I think you've literally gone through it. It was about the how do we then record our African history.
Yes.
And you mentioned a bit of being very intentional, like things we do, how we portray that which is a creation by an African.
Yes. And even that recording must go on, and the state must help us propagate that even through education. Because most of the time we learn things that really are not relevant to us. You see, if we study, for instance, what you just mentioned, for instance, the history of Napoleon Bonaparte and how he conquered the world. What if we, for instance, studied the business models of Mansa Musa, the richest man that ever walked this earth, the richest? How did he gain his wealth? How did he manage? And he was so philanthropic. He gave away his wealth, but he still had so much that he died still the richest man that ever walked this earth. Why don't we study that? Why don't we study the models that brought unity within our African setups, that we lived in unity and harmony? What are the ways that we did that? And can we employ that in the current state? I mean, right now, Africa is at war.
Yeah.
Yes, in Sudan, people
Yeah.
are warring. You know, around us, around
countries
Kenya,
around
in other
West
countries, West Africa,
Yeah.
East Africa, there are wars everywhere.
So we need
Can
to-
we employ our traditional ways of meditation, of conversation, of understanding to bring that,
Wow.
you know? So we can employ, Africa, our cultures are so rich
Yeah.
that if we employ them in handling the challenges that we have today, I'm sure they'll be more than sustainable.
And I know it's escaping us because the younger generation, I have interacted with a lot of young people, and a lot of them do not really have interest in that which is African. They don't, it's not a big deal to them.
But Andre, let me ask you, before we came here, you just told me about how your father influenced
Yeah.
your love for hip hop,
Hip hop, yeah.
right?
Yes.
If he didn't do that, would you be speaking so much or so passionate about hip hop?
Not really.
So it's upon us ourselves to teach our younger ones. If our fathers failed us, then those at least who should take up the father figures in society and teach people about Pan-African, about Africanity. Yeah, we are growing a population of young people who don't know their cultures,
And at
who
least,
don't know their
and I think we are not having enough of Pan-African conversations within
Yes.
many spaces.
Yes.
Yeah.
you see,
All right.
and providing even literature,
Yeah.
recorded literature to them, so that they can even, you know, read that and understand, and, you know, brew interest in it.
All right.
Because if they don't understand it, they cannot propagate it. That's,
Great.
we then will become the last generation that really appreciate Pan-Africanism and the use of our culture to develop ourselves,
Yeah.
and to propagate, to use it as a tool for prosperity.
All right.
Yeah.
So this takes me to the last bit of our conversation, because we're going to have the part 2 of this, where we talk poetry, we'll talk about this book as well.
Okay.
Talk about the civic spaces, civic voices that you're doing currently, and how you want to embrace technology to, you know, make people understand what is their role in the public participation. So basically, what is the civic voices?
So civic voices, before its own definition, is a continuation of work I've been doing since 2014. Because myself, I'm passionate about inclusive development, let me say. It's possible for us to develop as a people without leaving anyone behind.
Yeah.
Because most of the time we've seen development, even statistics of development taken, you know, of people who are doing well and spread across the other people who are not well off. If you look at the GDP of Kenya today, it's largely composed, its strength is largely composed of a small number of people who are doing so well, and that wellness being spread statistically to the larger population. So you say our GDP is this, but if you go to the ground, a majority of people are suffering. But it's possible to tag these people along in the development that we're talking about.
Yeah.
You see. So in that spirit, I've been involved in politics and just trying to invest the little that I have in talent and skill, and sometimes in resources, you know, to try to build change.
Okay. Resources here would mean money?
That would mean money.
Okay.
So to try to realize the kind of change that we aspire for this country, or personally I do aspire for this country.
Yes.
So I've been part of the political processes. And civic voices came from the realization that we cannot achieve the kind of development that we want to aspire to have if we leave behind the people who are then are supposed to be beneficiaries of that, or the people who unfortunately or fortunately now are the people to decide on those kinds of development through election and through voting the people who represent them in the planning and development of policies that then are supposed to champion for that development.
So
You
how far
So,
have you done this now? Like, what is the impact?
The impact, so in all then that we did, then technology becomes a big factor now.
Yeah.
Almost everything is going tech.
Yeah.
And then can we employ tech then to have the people involved in these processes, and that's how the Civic Voices project This is now an organization came through. So Civic Voices is basically employing tech to enhance people's or citizen participation in governance. So we have started with public participation.
Yeah.
There are challenges right now to public participation. The Constitution of Kenya proposed devolution, which is now a way of working. And devolution is about getting the power down to the people.
Yeah.
And then having those people make decisions then that affect how you're going to run the country.
That's how they sold the devolution to us. But
Yes.
has it been felt that way?
That's the ideal devolution.
Yes.
Right? So before even answer that question, then Civic Voices then comes in this way. If those people cannot even get the information about the agendas under discussion, agendas of the day, they cannot interrogate such things. They cannot be part of those conversations. Then how are they contributing to that? So can we employ technology to help people, engage themselves with governance? So that's how we develop Civic Voices.
Are people really willing? Because I use a case study of my own constituency. I was in a position at some point to be part of the guys who are mobilizing guys to come for the public participation, to interrogate the CIDP, give their inputs here and there. And then they demanded that they are paid to take part in the public participation. And it has become a really tough task for guys to actually be engaged in issues that actually affect them so directly. Like the governor wants to develop a budget and asks you guys, what would you want? So normally these things are gazetted for just for formalities, but it doesn't mean that people are actually participating, because if you ever bring people to a town hall conversation, they demand you to pay them to be part of the conversations.
Now, let me start from the question you asked first. Are people really participating? The answer is yes. There are people who are passionate about these things. They just lack the means to do it. We've successfully run a catalytic project in Nairobi County in partnership with Nairobi City County Government, employing public civic voices, for public participation in Nairobi. We just launched the report last week on Friday. It was a success. But there are challenges still that lie within. I'll just give you an example. When last did you buy a newspaper?
Actually, my office offers me a
newspaper. Your office offers you a newspaper.
Daily I'm able
so
to.
you have that advantage. During the launch on Friday, we had almost 100 people in the room. Then I asked the question, how many people bought a newspaper today? There was no hand up. So if we are putting public participation information in the newspaper as a notice, as an advert, then if you look at statistics, the number of people who really look at the adverts in the newspaper, unless there's something they're targeting, again, that number goes down.
Me included. I would hardly check what is going on in the adverts if I am not really looking for something.
75%, according to statistics, look for local news. What's happening? 38% business. 45% sports. Then the other percentages are now, adverts and all that. So if we put the adverts in newspaper, people are not getting the adverts. So how do they engage? So by employing tech, just like you can get a notice through your phone, your WhatsApp phone, people can get that information. Can we improve our policies then to support, such? Can we embrace tech, to go over such challenges? Right? You call people for public participation. Normally it's on a weekday. You're at work. Mama mboga yuko kazini. Kijana yuko mjengo. All those. So if you tell me to take 4 hours out of my time to sit in a public participation forum, will I sit there or will I fend for my family? So the balances, there are trade-offs that people are looking at and saying, it's difficult. So if we employ tech, umemaliza shughuli, which means then the public participation is not confined to the day. that I can sit down after taking a shower in my house at the end of the day,
Yeah.
go through what went on in the day, you know, there was that public participation, give my contribution.
Yeah.
I've submitted without necessarily going there. So we can have the physical one and technology complement one another.
Yeah.
Then we'll be able to reach a majority
And
of
make
those
the
people.
adverts through TikTok, for
Yes,
example.
yes.
You know?
I mean, right? So when people don't want to show up for public participation, there are factors that we have observed, you know, in our interaction with people and all those. Some of them are about feedback. When you come to me only to ask what my opinion is about a proposal you're having,
Yeah.
you don't give me feedback.
Yeah.
You don't give me end-to-end information about what's being discussed. Tomorrow you do the same. The third day you do the same. You think the fourth day I'll give you audience?
No.
I won't.
Yeah.
So that fatigue comes to people
Yeah.
when such things happen, when feedback cannot be gotten, when they cannot really engage with these people. So employing tech again helps that feedback, you know, get back to the people. So such factors such as fatigue that you're talking about, limited access to information,
Yes.
then make people, okay, you guys just want to do this as a formality. Though there are some county officials, some county governments that have failed, they are doing this just to tick the box. Not in real
necessarily
sense to
reach
engage
the people.
and reach the people and get their views. Those are there.
So Civic Voices
see?
is targeting to move beyond Nairobi County and
Yes.
and
And
amplify more of these works, the governance,
the 47
and public
counties.
participation
Yes.
in the 47 counties.
Yeah, because we believe that when people work hand in hand with their governments, a lot can be achieved.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of talent and passion that, if untapped, that can be tapped from our populations.
Yeah.
And if translated into the plans that the government, local and national government has, it can do us a lot of good. So for us, is how do we help governments and the citizens work hand in hand towards development? And we're using that through tech. So as an organization, that is our major goal.
Yeah.
So the Civic Voices platform then is a tool just to make that possible.
Great.
You know, and more efficient.
Wow.
Yeah.
You're doing a very good job.
Thanks
and
a lot.
from where I knew you, I think we've had a good conversations around the Pan-Africanism, which I really celebrate. You know, whenever I see you, I always remember the conversations we had.
Was I too hard to tap?
You are actually, you're two people. The good thing, you have the Ouma in your names. I think Oumas are very brilliant people, because my good friend Odiambo Kauma one has made me really question, how do I embrace the Africanness in me, even by the way I merely introduce myself. And I've thought about naming and everything. And you, that time, you really made me understand how, you know, everything at some times it's choreographed for Africa. We are designed to participate in to behave in a particular manner, do our politics in a particular manner. Now, I want us that in the next part of this show, we're going to talk about poetry, we're going to talk about this book, of course, and I have very interesting questions or ideas around who poets are, why poets write. But up until then, we meet in the next part of the show. See you there.